Hi!
Hi, guys. Well, from beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah,
It's Thank God I'm an Atheist.
the podcast.
I'm Frank Feldman.
And I'm Dan Beecher.
And coming up today, we're going to be talking about,
We're gonna be
what's the right lead-in for this?
what we're gonna be talking about is non-religious spaces
That are designed to be...
that do the cool shit that religious spaces can do.
Right. They're designed to
Not
inspire
Mormon
awe.
religious spaces, mind you. The religious spaces of our youth did not inspire awe.
No. Rug burn on the burlap. that happened.
But not awe. Not so much awe. But we're going to talk, but you know, you go to a cathedral, you go to a Catholic, an ancient cathedral, and there's awe.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. And so I had an experience on my trip of going to a museum that had been designed to inspire the same kind of awe, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, and I've been to some places too. We're going to talk about secular spaces and where we can go as secular people.
Right.
To experience such awe.
We don't have to ignore that.
No.
It's very human. It's something that we should feed, I think.
Yeah, I think
Awe.
so too.
I think we should find ways
Feed the awe. That's the. There you go.
Oh, Dan. What's been going on in the world, Dan?
Oh, I got some good ones.
Oh, yeah?
I got some good ones.
Oh, good.
For all you Marvel comic fans out there, I hope we're all happy with Colossus being an anti-Christian, anti-Jewish Muslim.
Yay!
That's right. Marvel Comics released a comic that is now going to be worth a lot of money because they're pulling it and redoing
really?
it. They hired an artist. This is for a comic called X-Men Gold. X-Men has apparently been... The X-Men series has been on hiatus. This is meant to revive X-Menism.
X-humans.
X-mania.
It's rather sexist. It's just X-men.
X-folk. They should call it X-folk.
X-people. X-persons.
Anyway, they hired a guy named Adrian Sayaf, who's an Indonesian freelance illustrator, artist, who in one frame... Colossus, apparently, he's playing baseball.
Okay.
And on his shirt, it very clearly says QS 5:51, which it stands for Quran Surah 5 verse 51.
Oh boy.
Which is a particularly shitty little verse in the Quran.
What does it say?
It's apparently difficult to translate, but here's the version that I got. O you who have attained to faith, do not take the Jews and the Christians for your allies. They are but allies of one another, and whoever of you allies himself with them becomes verily one of them.
Oh,
Behold, God does not guide such evildoers.
Oh boy.
That's some fucked up shit to put into a goddamn comic book.
Yeah, that is.
Into like a main... Yeah, I mean, if your character is like Muslim man, then okay. But like, if your character's just an X-Man...
Yeah.
That's pretty messed up.
Well, it's messed up, and... wow.
Yeah,
the Quran says that.
Apparently, yeah. Yeah. Right?
Huh.
You hear all this stuff about people of the book being all one, being all sort of related and stuff. The Quran is a book of peace only if you ignore a whole bunch of shit.
Well, and in that it requires you to be peaceful with it.
Yeah.
Not that it
yeah, right.
is one about peace that's achieved by accepting difference.
Yeah, right.
And embracing all of humanity as is.
Apparently, that particular verse is a sort of the big rallying cry of a movement in Indonesia, and this guy is So the artist went on a big tirade on Facebook defending himself, saying, "Oh, this is always." Ladies and gentlemen, if you learn anything from this show, know that it is never a good idea if you are accused of bigotry to say, no, I have lots of blank friends.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
That's basically self-incrimination. At this point, you're admitting that you suck when you say that. But no, yeah, he defended himself with the non-defense defense, and then those things were taken down, and then he was fired. Marvel is pulling the comic and re-releasing it without the offensive stuff. Apparently, there were a few other moments that had like little clues for his Islamic friends.
So instead it'll say like John 6:12.
Right. Yeah, exactly. 3:16.
The 3:16, there we go.
So anyone who got that edition of that book,
right,
hang on to that.
Yeah,
that just became worth something.
That guy did you a favor.
That thing's now a collector's item.
Yeah. Like a lot of Nazi memorabilia as a collector's item.
Yeah.
Like that's going to be like total underground. You're not going to have that at like a show.
Oh, no, you're totally going to have that at a show. It's
so?
not like Nazism. It's not the same thing.
ISIS?
Listen, Spicer, stop trying to compare everything to Nazis.
All right. Sweden, Dan.
Yeah? I've been there.
A midwife in Sweden by the name of Eleanor Grimmerk got hired on at a hospital.
Yeah?
Or some kind of medical center. And refused to do part of the job description.
Oh.
Which was perform abortions.
Oh, interesting.
And
that's part of midwifery there.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Well, and I'm sure there are some that are more sort of done by doctors.
Right.
But there are certain kinds of abortions that, it falls into the tradition of midwifery, actually.
Sure.
And so that was expected of her. She refused, and she lost her job because she,
because you're supposed to do all of the parts of your job.
Exactly.
That's how jobs work.
So she sues.
Yes.
And the courts have said, no dice.
You have to do your job.
You have to do your job.
Wow.
Period. Can you believe that?
Isn't it nice when courts are reasonable? Isn't it nice when courts, when the law makes some sense?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It is. It's a good thing, and it's also a good thing that she a couple of the quotes in the article, she kind of knew that she had especially toward the end, this is what was expected. This was the decision that everybody expected to be handed down,
right? And
she wasn't deluding herself too much,
right?
She is from Sweden, for crying out loud. She must kind of know how the country works,
yeah.
But nonetheless, she did attempt in the name of religious freedom. And apparently all of Sweden was just like, who the fuck does she think she is?
Yeah.
And there were quotes along the lines of, the needs of the population actually go before, our own religious needs. That was somebody who works for patients' rights, which was also a really interesting thing that people were saying, well, when you go to a hospital and you go see a certain clinician with a certain title, you have your set expectations of what you're going to get.
Right.
And the services that are provided. And I'm sorry, you're a midwife.
Yeah.
You
have a job.
What did you think was...
Here's the job description.
It's not just all,
birth and babies. Here's the thing.
Apparently.
The thing is, it's totally fine if if someone has a moral objection to abortion. I really don't have a problem with that. But if you got a job and that job has a description and you can't do it, you don't get to be that job.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
I can take a huge moral stand against, saying swear words on stage. People have done it. I'm an actor. If I decide I refuse to say swear words on stage,
right,
that's totally fine. I don't get to do a lot of roles then.
Right.
I can't demand that they modify the play
Right.
based on my morality.
Wasn't there a big case at the University of Utah?
There was indeed.
That was when you were probably a student there.
It was just after.
Just after?
Just after I was
Okay.
there. There was a girl. There was a woman in the actor training program there at the university that I attended. Who, yes, she was LDS and didn't want to be forced to say the swear words.
Yeah.
And they were forcing her to say the swear words.
Oh, just horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible. Whatever happened with that?
Well, they ended up siding with the university.
Uh-huh.
But here's the thing. I just feel like the professors there were dipshits and probably should have just let her get away with not saying swear words. They can't, let her choose different pieces.
Right.
Because she can't modify text. You can't modify the text.
That's
But
not
they took a hard stand on making her do whatever piece they assigned to her.
Oh.
And I don't know that they need to take that hard stand. She's definitely not going to work as a working actress.
Right.
If she, if you can't even say a swear.
Right.
Let me tell you something. You say swears on the stage. That's how the American theater goes now.
Right.
Because it's how people talk. Anyway.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, maybe she can do.
Yeah. So
Touring companies of
bizarro.
7 brides for 7 brothers or whatever. Yeah, it's just so funny. Just if you can't do part of the job, you can't do the job. That's that. That's how that works.
Just pick a field that
you
works. Fit.
Yeah, that works
and
with
that
your
fits
morality.
You. Yeah. Why is that a hard thing to?
Because she loves babies.
The cake baking thing.
Yeah.
And the pizza shops that cater, gay weddings.
Do what you got to do. What you do.
Yeah.
Or don't.
You're open
or
to,
don't do what you do.
It's all in the same vein.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway.
All right. We've beat that dead horse.
Okay.
I'm going to take us to Colorado, where a judge has issued a temporary injunction, a preliminary injunction against a law from Fort Collins. There was a law in Fort Collins. This could have far-reaching impacts across the country.
Oh, yeah?
We'll see. There's not been a ruling on this just yet, but currently there's an injunction, and the judge has indicated that he believes he will probably rule in this direction on the entire case.
Oh, okay.
The case involves titties. We got boobies, baby.
Okay. All right.
There was the Fort Collins, Colorado, attempted or passed a law that said that women could not show their breasts in public except to breastfeed.
Okay.
Ever. That was the law.
Ever.
It's just
no exceptions.
I mean, well, breastfeeding is the exception.
Well, aside from the one exception,
and I think they do stipulate on purpose or whatever.
Okay.
So this was the law, and so the judge has decided that he probably thinks that this law was based basically on discrimination against women, and is and.
So what do people want here?
Well, so
what is the end goal?
Boobs
on display.
On which side?
Boobs on display?
Sure, why not?
Any old time you want?
Yes.
Walking down the street.
Sure.
Well,
this isn't oh my goodness. Well, Frank, sometimes the intersection between 80-year-old man and gay man becomes evident.
Shut up.
Here's the thing. The judge has pointed out that there is that the ostensible differences between female breasts and male breasts are basically none. There's no difference between them other than this narrative in our society that somehow they're sexualized. Women's breasts are sexualized.
Okay.
He said, quote, "Thus, it perpetuates a stereotype ingrained in our society that female breasts are primarily objects of sexual desire, whereas male breasts are not." And I think he rightly points out that, the point he's making is men's bodies can be gawked at and sexualized. Mm-hmm. There's no but a man walks around shirtless and it's fine, and a woman walks around shirtless and it's horrible? Why? Anyway.
No, it makes sense.
This is all...
It makes sense. I'm just... I was just curious to what end?
Have you not? So there has been an actual like feminist movement in the country calling itself Free the Nipple.
Okay.
That's basically just saying, hey, let's equalize this shit.
So a public swimming pool.
Sure.
Huh. What, you're trying to turn this into Northern Europe?
Or Southern Europe?
Or Southern Europe. Yeah. They're all crazy.
Yes, that's right. I'm sorry, Frank. You may have to see boobs.
No.
In public. No. You know, there are many states in which it's already okay.
Yeah?
Like, if you do some research, apparently New York City, as long as you're not causing a ruckus with your boobs... Literally. No, I'm not even joking.
If your boobs cause a riot...
What they will get you on, if anything, is like creating a public disturbance or whatever. Right. But there's no law against a woman being topless. So like I saw a whole article where a woman went to Central Park and just took off her top and her bra and just sort of hung out. Right. And a cop came up and was like, "Hey, lady, what are you doing?" She said, "Nothing, just hanging out." And he was like, "Huh?" And then drove away.
Right.
So, like, it's already legal in a lot of places.
I know.
But it should be legal. The whole point is, like, the sexualization.
I just want it to be clear. What I don't want, I could care less, or I couldn't care less.
Right.
If women want to be topless on the beach or the pool or at the park sunning, whatever, it actually doesn't bother me. But what does bother me, or what would bother me in this, is the lack of, this is going to sound weird and funny probably, but the lack of sort of national discourse, right? Leading up to individual incidences or whatever, of toplessness in public spaces, because it's going to catch one off guard. Yeah. And one doesn't necessarily know how one is supposed to respond or react in... Like, I like rules, right? I like to...
Like social rules?
I like social rules. I like to know what the expectations and the limits are so that I know how I'm supposed to respond or not respond.
I think we're going to have to sort those out as we go.
I know.
This is new territory, my friend.
I know. And so I'm just saying I want it to be well publicized when these decisions are made. So that I'm not the person who's like, Jesus Christ!
Right. Oh, so what you're saying is you want to make sure that everyone knows that it's okay.
Yes.
So that nobody goes running up to some woman and going, "Now what are you doing?
Exactly.
Blah, 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 blah."
Exactly.
Yeah, all right.
Exactly.
That's fair.
So that it's all just like, okay, we've made this decision as a society. Women can go topless where men can go topless.
Yeah.
And all is good in the world. Those who don't agree with it, sorry, just suck it up.
Avert your eyes.
Right. And, I mean, at a certain point, if you're topless in public, avert your eyes? Really?
Well, or just...
You don't avert your eyes at a man's chest.
No, I'm saying if you object to it, avert your eyes.
Right.
If it somehow offends you,
right,
don't look.
Right.
Otherwise, enjoy the boobs. I don't know.
Her top's off.
Right. I enjoy...
She can't get upset if you're looking at them.
No.
At that point.
No, don't be a creep.
No, there's a different... I mean, clearly.
But I mean, we ogle men who are topless. We ogle women who, people are beautiful. Enjoy the beauty.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love about this case is that the city, in their defense, the government in their defense, has offered up, they've trotted out police officers who are claiming that it could be a traffic hazard.
Oh dear God! Seriously, for the first season that this is a thing, yeah.
Maybe, ladies, if you do go public with your boobies, just don't do it near the street. Maybe for the first little while, let us all get used to it for a minute. Do it in the park. Do it on the beach, and then
there has to be a moment of adjustment.
Yeah, sure. But that's not the rules. That's good sense.
Yeah,
it's just good sense. Anyway, you know what's funny is that I was like, do I even do that for the show? Does it have a religious tie-in? And then I went, you know what? Fuck yeah, it has a religious tie-in. This goes all the way back to our puritanical roots as a country.
Yeah.
This is obviously just...
Because other places in the world don't care as much about this.
Right.
There are places that care far more than we do. But you know... But there are places that seriously don't care. I mean, for crying out loud, I don't want to keep talking about, my trip or anything.
Right.
But, public restrooms are always so weird to me in Europe.
Oh, sure.
It always takes a minute to be like, oh, yeah, they're just different here.
Right.
The lack of obscuring the urinals from public view.
Oh yeah.
Which is totally bizarro. And it's not even that they don't have dividers between them, which you'll see that in the US of course too, but seriously, at the airport, a place that one would expect would just be built out to some standard that has a nice big large bathroom, lots of obscuring blah 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 angles where you can't see in. Oh no, the door was just wide open looking at the urinals.
Let me tell you something. I don't remember what city it is, but I just recently saw a thing. There was one city in Europe that was trying to avoid that was trying to cut down on public urination just out on the street.
Okay.
So they built these big, actually very attractive funnel-looking, sculpturally interesting funnel-looking things out in the middle of the public square that you can just walk up to and pee into. Just whip it out right there and pee into it.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's just peeing. The whole point is they're not hung up on bodies as evil. And that's where all of this comes from, is that somehow the body, anything that participates in sexuality, A, sexuality is evil, wrong. Right. B, any part of the body that participates in sexuality is obviously bad and should be covered. Idiotic.
Right.
This whole concept that nudity is somehow bad or incendiary or something. Anyone who's been on a nudist beach for more than 4 minutes realizes the sexuality of the thing goes away instantly.
Right.
When you go to Burning Man and there's just dicks and tits flopping everywhere, you don't notice it, or you notice it, but it doesn't feel sexual at all.
Yeah.
You're just hanging out with naked people. That's all.
Right.
Stupid.
I don't know. I get all of it. I don't know about. I don't want to. Anyway.
They're coming. The boobies are coming for you, Frank. Brace yourself.
No, it's just my worst nightmare come true. Anyway, a new book is coming out, Dan.
Oh, good.
Written by apparently a fairly popular Catholic author, James Martin. Is his name? The Reverend James Martin.
Oh yeah, I've read so many of his.
Just works. Great things. He works on, or he tends to write on pastoral issues, and
as a reverend would do. Seems
very
right.
Popular, riveting books.
Seems right.
Riveting books. Nonetheless, his latest book has tackled the topic of the church, the Catholic Church, and the LGBT community.
Oh.
And how they need to enter into a relationship of respect, compassion, and sensitivity with each other.
Good luck.
And but what's sort of groundbreaking here is that he doesn't use the Catholic Church. Basically, has sort of always, how the churches don't want to admit they don't want to concede too much in their use of language toward
Right.
acceptance
There's
of homosexuality.
There's basically a style manual on the thing.
And so you talk about same-sex attraction or referring to gay people as homosexual strictly, right? Because
We don't want to make it too cute.
right. He's actually using LGBT. And he's talking about the gay community and lesbians and and the importance of that this is everyone's church. It's the gay community's church too, is what he's saying.
I mean,
And it has received accolades from all levels of the church.
Okay.
And has on its little dust cover. They put little quotes.
yeah.
It was called "Brave, Prophetic, and Inspiring" by a U.S. cardinal who is close to Pope Francis.
Yeah.
And he's kind of the point man on family issues.
Okay.
He says that it's much needed. Blah 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 blah.
I love. Here's what I love. You got a church that has for centuries purported to be all about Jesus and love and loving your neighbor, and we are everybody's church. They've been saying that shit for centuries.
Yeah, it's the universal church.
And then one guy comes out and actually uses a little bit of respectful language and says,
And it's news.
and says, we want to welcome you, and this is your church too. And someone high up within that church goes, oh, that's brave. That's so brave. Fuck you. It's not brave.
It's brave in their context.
What I'm saying is, like, how shitty do you have to be where just using the respectful language and saying we should be respectful to these people
Are you asking
is the brave thing?
how shitty is the Catholic Church?
Oh, I suppose I know the answer. It's more a rhetorical question.
I mean,
Your church is shitty.
yeah, I mean, but this is
a step.
This is the hope of Pope Francis, right? Mm-hmm. And he's he's hard to read as far as like exactly how far he wants this whole thing to go.
Right.
But he has set up something where the more tolerant and accepting parts of the Catholic community, right, can actually step forward and write a book like this.
Yeah.
And can actually have a dialogue about,
and he's not being
how can
ostracized.
we reach out to exactly. There's a space for him because his approach is a pastoral approach, which is Francis's approach.
Right.
Francis wants a church that's about priests working with their communities and being accepting and non-judgmental and all that stuff, right? And this guy is saying that, but he's saying it about the gay community. Yeah. And you know what? And here's the deal. Like, I mean, fuck the Catholic Church in basically every way, right? But I'm going to, I like watching how this issue is developing in the Catholic Church.
Absolutely.
Because let me tell you, the Catholic Church figures out how to accept and embrace the gay community.
Yeah.
Globally.
Yeah.
That's fucking huge.
That would have a big impact.
That's huge.
It has not happened. Let us be clear.
No. That is not what this, but this is a step toward something like that.
Right.
Eventually,
well,
10, 15, 20.
The writing
50,
is on the wall, kids. Every religion
road.
is going to have to accept homosexuality or be a fringe religion in the next little while.
Right.
It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
And Catholicism has managed to avoid fringiness for century after century. They will avoid fringiness here. They will accept the gays eventually.
Yeah.
So, yes, but the way that it happens is it's these little baby steps forward, then a giant step back, and then little baby steps forward, and it inches
we'll see.
and inches.
We'll see. I mean, I'm not making any predictions here, but like, I don't know. I have to applaud anything like this.
Sure.
And because as atheists, I'd rather the whole thing go away, period.
Right.
But since it's there, and I'm
you'd rather have
big old
Catholics,
homo,
yeah,
I'd rather them like me,
right,
than not.
right. It's good. It's good to have the entire Catholic Church on your side.
Yeah,
that's a nice thing.
yeah. It's good for human rights.
I think so. I'm going to take us to Magic Fire. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I am not even exaggerating. That's what's happening. I will repeat. Magic Fire!
Is this like a Sunday type thing? Sunday.
It is like that. Here's what's happening in Jerusalem.
What?
On this coming Saturday. So for most of our listeners, it will be last Saturday.
Is this like Pentecost or something? What is this?
Orthodox Christians, thousands of them, will gather at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem.
Okay.
And the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is theoretically where Jesus' tomb was, above where Jesus' tomb was.
Yeah.
And apparently, theoretically, they have the rock, the slab onto which Jesus was laid.
I love all these claims. Sure.
It's
great.
It's very clearly true. And here's how I know it's true.
Imprint? Is there an imprint of his body?
There's a shroud that fits really nicely over top of it. No. Here's how we know. Because every year, some Orthodox Christian guy, some father from Russia, goes in. Here's what they do. They clean the place out. They inspect the entire room for any sort of fire-starting material.
Oh, no.
They ensure that there is no way that fire can be started from within that room.
This sounds like a magic trick.
Then they close the door. And they seal it.
Do they turn the tomb around?
Yes, they do. They seal it. They seal the door with wax.
Oh.
So that you know that if the wax is broken, you know that it's been broken into.
God, this is a good trick.
This is a good trick.
Okay.
Then this Holy Father, presumably nude, because how do we know that he doesn't have a lighter on him? Anyway, no, he walks in with candles.
Okay.
He holds them into the light that is, I think, the light that's cast from the sunshine that comes in through a hole or whatever.
Yeah.
Fire. The candle. He walks out, and the candles are lit, but they are not just lit; they are cold flames.
What?
The flame is cool until it starts for a minute, and then it starts to become hot.
What?
And then they take that flame all the way back to Russia.
This is a good trick.
It happens every year, I guess.
Has a magician? Has anybody has Randy?
What?
Has the amazing Randy?
Are you claiming that there should be skepticism applied to this? Why can't you just love the miracle, Frank?
because of the setup.
Because it's so fucking stupid?
The setup, I mean, what do they do next? Make a yacht disappear?
They do. They make a donkey appear carrying Jesus. Yes, I suppose there have been some skeptics who have thought that maybe the candles are dipped in white phosphorus, which would then ignite fairly easily with any kind of heat source or whatever.
Okay.
Or maybe the dude just has a lighter somewhere in his robes. Who knows?
What about this cold flame thing? That's is it a different color? How do you know it's cold?
The claim is that it's so cool that people have been able to wash their hands and face in it.
In flame?
What the fuck does that mean? I don't know.
Weird.
But yeah.
Okay.
Magic fire!
Well, that's great.
I really like saying that. That's kind of fun to say.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, you ready?
Well, I will say that only after the flame is delivered to Patriarch Kirill in Russia is our mission complete.
Oh. All right. Dan?
Yeah, what?
The Alabama State Senate. That's always 3 good words to start a sentence
God,
with.
you gotta love it whenever. I mean, didn't Alabama just lose their governor? I think Alabama's governor just resigned after all of the sex scandal and stuff, Alabama's government is always a good place to go. Go ahead. What do we got?
So they have voted to allow a mega church to form its own police department.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
In the first of its kind decision, the 4,000 person congregation at Briarwood Presbyterian Church can now have their religious police watch over them.
That's amazing.
and the school.
Oh, sure.
They have a little school, as a lot of churches do. And it was a landslide decision, 24-4.
Wow,
was the vote.
I think there's going to be more churches with cops. Church cop. I think
terrifying.
I think there's a network TV show in this,
like mall cop,
church cop.
But this is like real cops. This isn't just like a security thing.
So they have arresting power. They have.
Yes.
Like
what was? But here's my question: what was the problem that
necessitated this?
Yes.
What was happening in this church so often?
Right.
That like the town's regular cops were not sufficient.
Couldn't handle it.
Or wouldn't handle it. Because all the cops would go to the Baptist church, not the Presbyterian church.
Well, critics of this bill have argued that any police department, right, that reports directly to church officials,
right,
could be used to cover up crimes.
What?
Because
what? They are church police. They believe in Jeebus.
Yeah, but they answer to
the priest,
to the church,
Yeah.
Not good, folks.
Not a great idea.
This is not a good development.
You know, I just Googled Briarwood Presbyterian Church in Birmingham, Alabama. We're not talking, you said mega church, sure, but we're not talking Osteen numbers here.
No.
Their entire membership is 4,000.
Yeah. It still constitutes a mega church.
But it's not, it's
not arena. Big,
yeah.
But it's big.
It's big. I'm just saying, like, each service, you're going to have a few hundred people there. You're going to have like 400 or 500 people at each service. I'm guessing you got like 3 services on a Sunday. You're not, or maybe 1,000 maximum. You don't need a police force, is what I'm trying to get at. You don't need church cop.
I don't know, Dan. It is Presbyterian.
You make a very good point.
They're unruly.
They are.
They are an unruly bunch, Dan.
You never know what's going to happen at a Presbyterian church.
Yeah.
Wow. I feel like we're on the cusp of something that's going to happen a lot in the South. I feel like we have set a precedent that will spread through the South.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I want to know, like, because, like a university police force, right? I mean, that's pretty common.
Yeah, sure.
That a university will have its own cops.
But they answer to the state because this is a state university.
Yeah, the private universities will have their own cops as well.
But cops will answer to the state. They don't answer to the university. They work at the university, right?
It's a university police department that's formed. Its charter is with the university.
But that's their jurisdiction. That's not to whom they answer.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know.
No, it's that's the body that has formed that police department, just like a city. So the police in a city report to the city. They don't report to the state. So nonetheless, how far-reaching though does their authority go?
That's
because they are real cops,
right?
They're real legit cops.
So they can chase you off campus if they need to.
Yeah, I mean, or is this a run to the county line type thing?
Right. If you make it from the Presbyterian church to the Baptist church, do they
authority?
Can you just thumb your nose at them? It's a mosque. Fuck you. You have no authority here.
I just don't get why they need a police force. It just boggles the mind.
Well, when you're laundering that much money, you really need your own police. Here's what's amazing to me. You know, well, we've seen what happens when police forces work. Like, for instance, in Colorado City / what's the other side of the thing?
Arizona City.
No. Anyway, the little
what is it?
The little
Boulder.
No. No.
It starts with a B.
They call it Short Creek.
We'll just call it Short Creek then.
Crick, by the way, is Utah for creek. But in Short Creek, which is the polygamist community on the border between Utah and Arizona in the southern part of Utah, police come from their community. Like, the police officers come from... So all the police in that town are polygamist fundamentalist Mormons. Uh-huh. And so when you drive into this town, notoriously, if you drive around town, you will pick up a tail.
Yeah.
There will be a black, probably SUV that will start following you around the town. And it turns out that they are the cops of the town. And it's because they're members of the dominant church there.
Yeah, they don't want you there.
And they don't want you there.
Yep.
So it's the definition of how corruption happens.
Right.
This is how that's going to play out. So good job, Birmingham, Alabama. You got yourself some church cops. That's hilarious.
Bad idea. Bad idea.
Bad idea indeed. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if there are any bad ideas happening in your neck of the woods, let us know. Write to us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. The number is 424-666-8442.
Yes, go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/TGIAtheist.
And while there, search for the TGIA Members Only Lounge and request to join. We'll let you in. Dan?
Yes, sir.
Do you like men as much as I do?
Well, I do. I like the concept of men.
Huh?
Men.
Manly men.
I enjoy a good man. Sure, why not?
Well, I don't know if you enjoy men as much as Pat Robertson, though.
Well, he's. I would say he's a connoisseur. I like men sort of across the board. I'm not really that picky about my men.
Right.
He likes he's got
very
a type.
Specific.
He has a type.
So let's listen in.
Yeah.
Well, are our young men being turned into wimps? Is that what's happening on college campuses? Can you believe that they've got to apologize for being masculine? They have to apologize for being white. They've got to apologize for being males. I mean, it is crazy what's happening on college campuses. Not at Regent University, I might add, but on many of them. Well, on many college campuses, masculinity used to be looked as something to be desired. Now it's regarded as something shameful. Would you want a wimp? Really?
No, I like manly men, and they are scarce out there.
Well, I mean, the time they're little kids, they're feminized. I mean, it's just awful.
Gotta get those manly men. Don't want any of those feminized men.
Rare though these days,
aren't they? Just
they're so rare.
What the fuck is he talking about? Gotta apologize for being a man. What? When?
Yeah.
Point to the moment that you're talking about, because if you're talking about gotta apologize for
being a rapist,
raping, yeah,
that's bad.
Yeah. In my day, we used to have fun antics like we'd do keg stands and feel women's boobs against their will. But now the men aren't manly like that anymore.
I know. It's a shame, Dan.
It is a shame.
It's a
boys will be boys.
It's a way of life that we've just lost. We've lost our way, Dan.
That's all he could be talking about, isn't it? What else could he be talking about?
He's probably longing for the days of your wife's out of line, give her a good smack.
A little, just a nice, solid, but not too hard. so she knows you mean business.
Right.
Smack in the face.
Yeah, not so hard as to leave a scar. You want to stay pretty.
Yeah, you don't want to bruise the woman.
No.
Her beauty is there for you, after all.
Right. So why damage it?
Why ruin it?
Right.
You just want her to learn a lesson.
Right.
Jesus Christ, man, what the fuck are you talking about? I mean, there are some men who are very feminine. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's really bad.
That is bad.
Oh my God, what will happen if a man is feminine? And poor little what's her name on the show, who there's fewer and fewer of those manly men out there.
I know.
Who's gonna smack her around?
Dan,
ladies and
that's
gentlemen,
not what she was saying.
we
I hope that's not what she was saying.
well, I mean,
who knows? Actually,
if that is what she was saying, then go for it. Find yourself a man who smack you.
One of the stories I didn't take on this week, was, I guess there was this big hubbub in Australia because some morning news guy kind of called out Muslim women because there was this video that had hit the web that he found of these two Muslim women talking about what's appropriate for a man in sort of, what's the right word? Disciplining them.
They're
right?
The wives.
The wives.
We're not even
right?
talking about the kids. We're talking about the wives.
The wife, you
right?
know,
Sure.
that a man is supposed to discipline his wife.
Yeah.
Right. And they're going through the all the things, that he's allowed to do. He's allowed to talk to you.
Okay.
This is the order that's supposed to happen in.
Okay.
He can talk to you.
Right.
That doesn't work. Doesn't set you straight. Then he can deny you his presence in bed.
Okay.
The pleasure of his presence.
Oh. Sure.
If that doesn't get your attention,
The Lysistrata technique, sure.
so if that doesn't get your attention,
Right.
then he's allowed. He is permitted, not required. They go into great length here. He's not required to hit you.
Right.
He's permitted to hit you.
If he wants
Right?
to.
And they're totally accepting and complicit of this whole system.
Right.
And it's really disgusting. It's awful. And this news guy called them out for it, and they did another video responding to it.
Right.
Well, it's okay because, the Quran says that he can't harm you. He can't hurt you.
Right.
And it's like,
That is why it's okay. It's super duper okay.
and
you
who the
guys.
fuck is he to be disciplining his wife in the first place?
Yeah, well, he's the man. That's who he is.
Yeah.
We had some folks write into us. I'm just going to jump right into this. Listeners will recall last week when you, Frank, were not here that me and Doug had a lovely conversation about General Conference, Mormon General Conference.
Yeah, I love General Conference.
And we wondered if other religions had such a thing. Because it seems fairly unique to Mormonism.
There's a few that do.
Well, so we had someone calling himself Revan, write into us and say, "Hello, Frank and Dan. I just got done listening to your podcast with Dan and Doug, and you were talking about LDS General Conference, and we're curious if J-dubs do anything like that. The answer is yes, they do. There are 3 conferences." He goes on to say, he says the second conference is the regional conference. This is the big one of the year. It is a Friday through Sunday affair. This is where new releases of books happens.
Oh.
That's probably a big deal in the J-dub world.
I love their books.
What if you were an illiterate J-dub? Boy, you'd be in some trouble.
They teach you to read.
They got a lot of books and a lot of pamphlets.
They would teach you to read, Dan.
Also, let's see. Also on Sundays, this is my favorite part. They have a quote drama, which is an hour of bad acting on stage, and usually starts out in modern times, has a spiritual dilemma, and then it changes settings to some biblical story that conveniently fixes this non-dilemma, and then goes back to the modern times to see how it was applied.
Oh my!
Spoiler alert. The person being counseled always does what the Watchtower wants them to do. That is the highlight of the weekend. I can't believe I used to like that shit, he says.
Oh.
Oh, my God. That's so funny. We also had Sana write in from Finland. Hi. I'm going to say she. Hi, this Sana says.
Oh, hi.
We don't need to genderize this person. You had asked about the yearly religious conventions. We Finns have our own conservative group called Conservative... Oh, that's a word. Laestadians. The Laestadians, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Of Finland.
Oh,
Only if it's
yes.
Finnish, I should put the emphasis on the first syllable. Laestadians. I don't know why, but I think that's a thing in the
is that
Finnish,
a thing?
in
really?
the Finnish
Oh,
language.
okay, here.
That's why
So-
it's Nokia, not Nokia.
Oh, interesting.
Anyway, no birth control, no TV, makeup, dancing, worldly music, etc. I have a Laestadian friend who has 15 little sisters. Jesus Christ. 15? That's a 16. Wow.
Well, with no TV or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
What you gonna do?
Up to 80,000 people, Sana goes on to say, families with lots of kids will gather to a big field with their caravans. And they have huge tents for sermons, kitchens, etc. All sermons come out also with loudspeakers, so you can hear them miles away.
Wow.
Boring as hell. Everyone gets to hear what their opinion about things should be. Women aren't allowed to speak. Well, obviously, that would be crazy if women were allowed to
Defeat
speak.
the purpose.
But almost everyone seems to love it since it's the biggest social event of the year. People get to meet friends around the country. Kids get candy and ice cream. So
Oh.
that's the way to do it. Bribe the kids. Then they'll love it. So, yes.
Well, and then don't give it to them the rest of the year.
Right. Yes, deny them. And then
it's really special.
and then it's like Christmas.
Oh, my goodness.
Hooray.
That sounds fantastic.
Did we
We have some donors.
we have oh good.
And this is 2 weeks worth
yeah.
of new donors.
Yes.
Dan.
Oh.
Coming in at the
Faithful level? Frank has to look around for his chart.
faithful level are Jeff and Maggie,
Oh.
Shane, and Jexka.
Oh.
And then we have at the venerable level David and Anthony. And the beatified Elizabeth has joined the ranks. Thank you.
Hallowed be her name.
And James continues as our Lord and Savior.
Blessings
Thank
on all of you.
Thank you, everyone.
So much.
And if you'd like to join their ranks, you can do so by going to thankgodimatheist.com and looking for the Patreon or support tab.
Yes.
You can
And then it'll just
join up.
click you right through to Patreon, at which point you decide what level you wish to participate in.
and whatever level you decide to choose, or you choose, you get access to a commercial-free version of the show.
and
That's nice.
and our undying gratitude.
Yeah, and there's other stuff that
Well, we bless you in the name of the thing and the other guy and the stupid. Amen.
can go on. Amen.
So you were just in Europe.
I was, yeah.
It's a continent on this earth.
Yeah.
We've delineated the different continents, and you were in one of them that
Yeah.
isn't this North American one.
Yeah. It's where, they've got some cool things to see.
Over in Europe?
Yeah, old things.
In Europe?
It's always amazing to us Americans how old the things can be.
Right. Although,
Because we don't have a lot of old.
I mean, you go to southern Utah and you start to see some paintings on some rocks, and you think, oh, no, that's some legit old.
Yeah,
Right there.
That's like really old. But where are those people?
Yeah, they're gone.
They're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're still Europeans. Is that your point?
Well,
Those
the
ones still are
descendants
around.
of the people who built those big churches
Right.
are still there. You know, and
Here's the thing. So we had a conversation that is only available to our Patreon donors of a certain level.
the Beatifieds.
The Beatifieds and above. They can hear our full in-depth conversation about the cathedrals of Europe.
Yeah.
Which you and I like.
Yeah.
But you had another experience that related to some experiences that I've had. Why don't you start by talking about?
Well, yeah. I definitely took in some museums on this trip. And I went to the let me make sure I get this right. The Rijksmuseum in
I like the rolled R on that. That was fun.
Yeah. I was saying it totally wrong, and then the woman at the front desk at my hotel corrected me.
Generously corrected you.
Yeah. But very, very, like, I kind of asked, am I getting it right? And she kind of laughed and was like, no. So anyway.
Fair enough.
The Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam.
Sure.
And it's an old museum, or at least it's been there since the 1800s. And I did the whole thing. I mean, this is where like all the Dutch masters are. So you got your Vermeer and your Rembrandt,
sure,
all of those guys, right? And but it's also a big sprawling. It's a huge museum, and I did the audio tour thing. And one of the tours that you could do, aside from the ones that take you around to the different collections and whatnot, was a tour of the building.
Oh.
And some of the information that I got out of that was sort of the intent of the original architect, who used a lot of for example, in the original entry hall to the museum, it has murals depicting various scenes, and that's not uncommon to see in old buildings, you know. But it has stained glass with figures, with people depicted on 3 big stained glass panels, multiple windows involved.
The kind of thing that one would think you would only see really
in a cathedral. And it was very much in the style of very ornate and lots of interesting patterns, and the people standing there very very stoic and whatnot.
Yeah.
And the intent was to use sort of religious, what would you call that?
Iconography or
really
style, religious
style, right?
Yeah.
In this building that was celebrating secular work,
right?
Celebrating the artists,
yeah.
Right? And as you would enter, if this was the entrance to the museum, as it once was, you would then enter into this long. Once it was pointed out in the tour, it was obvious, this long, basically cathedral type space.
Okay.
Super high, ceilings,
sure.
And then chapels, so to speak, on each side as you go along. Just these alcoves that were dedicated to specific artists, right? And then at the very end, you have basically as the altarpiece, this the Night Watchman by Rembrandt.
Yeah.
As like the thing, the most important piece, and it's huge. And it was just, I thought that it was just so marvelous to take those, the basically not the architectural form that one would expect in a cathedral and put it into something that's celebrating human achievement, artistic achievement, right?
Yeah,
and
rather than celebrating everybody's imaginary friend,
right? Something real and something tangible, and but that could inspire that same kind of awe that a cathedral's architecture inspires, because there is something about a high ceiling with light coming in that lifts your eyes, and it lifts.
It feels different.
A really magical Gothic cathedral, it almost feels like you're floating.
Yeah.
The light is playing, and
I walk into Notre Dame de Paris, and it doesn't feel like I'm floating. It feels like I'm so grounded. Like I walk in there and I feel it's dark. It's like by design, a lot of these Gothic cathedrals are very dark, and I feel pressed down. but the structure itself pushes up so high that there's this inspiration, this awe. But I mean, the thing is, I feel small in that space. I feel like it's meant to give me a sense of my own smallness in the grandeur of God's world or whatever. And then I go into the cathedral, St. Paul's Cathedral in London, where Christopher Wren designed it without the dark stained glass, with clear glass at the top, and it's meant to let a lot of white light, a lot of that sunlight in when and if London has sun, which is
therein lies the problem.
a sketchy thing.
Yeah.
And it feels very bright and very airy and very uplifting and very open, and it's sort of in golds and whites, a very different feel.
Yeah.
But all of these have this sort of sense of awe about them.
Yeah.
I was going to sort of pivot to my experience of the Jewish Museum in Berlin, which was designed by a man named Daniel Liebeskind, who is a very interesting architect. But he created the museum itself. I'll be honest, like the exhibits in the museum, I didn't love. I didn't love the museum how it presented itself. But Liebeskind had put into the museum these spaces that he called voids. That didn't have any exhibits per se. They literally one of them. I think he called it. Did he call it the chapel, the cathedral, the something? It was a space that you walked into with a big door, and you walked in, and it was blackness. From where you were walking, you felt like you were walking into blackness, and it felt like it felt prison-like at first. There's only one window, and it's way out. The ceiling is 4 stories high. And there's one sort of clear story window at the top that's very thin. That's the only light source. And so you walk in and you feel like you've gone to jail. It's a triangular shaped room. You can't see anything because your eyes are used to much more light. And as you stand there in silence, your eyes adjust to the light. And then it takes on this sort of cathedral feel. It takes on this feel of awe. And it's in a museum that's dedicated to sort of the survivors of the Holocaust and just dedicated to the Jewish experience in Europe. It's so impactful. And he's got these other rooms too that have similar really interesting ways of disorienting you and sort of calling to mind different things. And man, a space can be amazing.
Yeah.
And when you start to use the tricks that religion has used with space for a secular purpose, it can be amazing.
Well, and I mean, and that's the thing. Like, I think that, and we've talked about this before, but, atheists, I think we have a tendency when we, flee church, to cut ourselves off from those spaces, and very rightly so.
Yeah, a lot of people I've talked to, once they've left church, are we're so traumatized by the whole experience. They don't want to go anywhere near a church ever again in their whole lives.
And I think for me, the reason that Catholic churches, just big cathedrals in general, don't cause me those kind of problems. I don't have a churchy association with that.
Interesting.
Right, because that was never my religious experience.
Right.
We talk, Mormon churches are the Motel 6s of churches. They're just awful.
Boring, horrible places.
Right. They're bland.
By design.
They don't want the ornamentation.
Yeah. Right? I mean, we're not talking about Amish here, but there's like, they talk about beauty, but they don't enact it.
No. So yeah, very, very, very plain, whatever. And so again, for me going into a big Catholic cathedral, none of it represents my religious experience. So I'm able just to go in and just appreciate the architecture.
Sure.
But nonetheless, I think that it's important. I mean, and it could be just seeking out, natural, the spaces in the natural world.
Yeah.
Getting out into some mountains or canyons or going to the coast and looking out at the ocean. And I mean, there's just so many places where we can let our minds go and feel some connection and feel a little inspired, but for me, I mean, and for anybody else that can get it from a pretty church, I think it's a valuable experience. And my mind gets very contemplative in a cathedral as I wander around and being quiet and doing my little thing and being very respectful.
Yes. Yes. Because I would never encourage anyone to be disrespectful in somebody else's church. That's awful.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. So we're talking about two different things that are both interesting. The first one is how we as atheists respond to other people's religious spaces. Mm-hmm. And I understand. I have no problem. I get people feeling upset by churches, people seeing them as a place where they were hurt, where other people get hurt. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All of that's real.
Yeah.
But I have cultivated in my life a fascination when I go into those places. Mm. I love watching the devoted doing their thing, because it's just so interesting to me. Mm. Such a weird human thing to watch people kneel down, weep, think, pray, cry, sing, all in the name of something that we know is likely not there.
Right.
Is not real.
Right.
But it's real to him and it's real to her, and that's fascinating to me. And the space, but then there's this other thing, which is that we can learn as secular people from these spaces.
Yeah.
And from the fact, and I think that, there's this, you're right, there's this tendency, we've got a lot of bathwater that we want to get rid of as we eschew our religious roots.
Right.
But there's a baby there, somewhere in there. There's good stuff within all of that nonsense that we shouldn't throw away. And I think giving ourselves spaces for contemplation, for reflection, for beauty. Mm-hmm. We as a secular group, as secular people, I wish we had a greater embrace of that. Mm. And I hope that we can all talk about it more, so that it's inspired more, so that maybe there's a secular architect out there who's going to be doing a space, a museum or something.
Yeah.
And we'll include these beautiful contemplative spaces, a place to just sit and ponder.
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Well, kids, if you have something you'd like to say, if you've got recommendations for places to visit that could be awesome, write into us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or you can call and leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
Yes, it is. Go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/TGIAtheist.
And while you're on Facebook, search for the TGIA Members Only Lounge and request to join. It's a closed group, which protects your anonymity, if that's important.
Yeah, nobody will know that you're in an atheist group if you go there. It's there for you to just be a part of the group without you don't have to come out to everybody else on your Facebook wall about it.
And it's also a moderated group, which means that the discussion remains civil.
Indeed, and to that end, I'd like to thank Sarah, Amy, and Danny for their hard work as moderators on the Members Only Lounge.
And, of course, we need to thank Mackenzie for all of her hard work on Facebook.
Yes, indeed. Thanks to the Red Rock Hot Club and to Gordon Johnston for their use of their fine music.
And thank you, dear listener, for listening.
We sure do appreciate it when you do.
Bye.